Guys, if you want to sit here in the front seats, I promise that I don't bite. So feel free just to use these seats. You're going to see that you're going to have a piece of paper. Don't bother with this right now. We're going to use this just towards the end of the presentation. So just leave it there underneath your chair, and we're going to use it later on.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good day. Nice to see you. A lot of people here in Litexpo. It was a surprise for us, for organizers, to have such a big audience in the 5.1 audience hall. We planned 350 people, and now we are counting 550 people, and still we had 1 or 2 tickets bought today even. Okay, so I am Leonard. I will be hosting this hall, and I'll give you a microphone, yeah, and Leonard also will
I like your name.
yeah, will give us talk about Scrum events and what is beyond. So please.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. You can hear me well? Yep. So as Leonardo said, my name is Leonardo. Originally, I'm from Brazil, but I've been working and living in Dublin for the last 5 years. And today, I would like to talk a bit more the Scrum events. We talk a lot about Scrum, but today I would like to focus on the Scrum events. I've been adopting and using, facilitating this framework for the last at least 5 years. And I would like to share my view and some learnings that I had during this time adopting and working with teams. Before we start, who's my audience today? Like, how many of you are Scrum Masters? Just hands up. Okay. POs? Oh, we have 2 POs. And 3, 4. Dev team? Any software engineer? We have a couple of them as well. Any other role that I didn't mention? Managers? Oh, we have some managers. That's good. That's really good. Any other? Dev team. I call the software engineers. It includes UX designer, can be a developer, testers, and so on. Okay. So, how many of you are using Scrum currently? Hands up. 95%. Yeah, so version 1 just released last month or the month before their Agile report, and they stated that Scrum is the most used Agile framework in the market. So we have around 58% of the people that use Agile or try to adopt Agile using Scrum. This number can reach up to 75 if we also consider Scrum, the plus XP, the hybrid, or even Scrum. So my point here is then, are we really getting the benefits that we are using this a lot, but are we getting the benefits that the framework of the Scrum can bring to us? And this is what I would like to talk to you today, focusing on the Scrum events. And I would like to start with sprint planning. Let me tell a story here. Imagine that you and your team, or you and your friends, are going for hiking today. Okay? You just reached the bottom of the mountain, and it's early in the morning, and then you get together and you talk, discuss, and you set like your objective. So we, together, want to be on the top of the mountain by the end of today. So you also discuss how you intend, because you can see part of the path that will bring you to the top of the mountain. Part of the path is behind some trees or behind even the mountain, but you can pretty much have a plan that, okay, We think that's going to take, I don't know, 6, 7 hours. And we follow in this plan, we're going to be on the top of the mountain by the end of today, by the end of the day. And then you start hiking up. After, I don't know, 3, 4 hours, let's suppose whenever you cross those trees, you suddenly realize that there's a better way to go to the top of the mountain, maybe shorter, easier to go, or there's a lake now that we need to bypass and then can either take much longer than we expected, and then we won't be there on the time frame in the time frame that we have. So we won't be on the top of the mountain today. So what would you do? Not thinking about software development, I'm thinking about you guys there. Will you change your initial plan, keeping what you want to achieve? Or will you keep your plan to cross the lake, or not using the better way to go to the top because you planned this at the beginning of the commute or the journey there? What would you do? Would you stick with your plan, or would you change? And so my question, why don't we do this in our sprints? So I see sprint planning, we should have two main outcomes. The first and most important, the sprint goal. Sprint goal will tell us why we are running that sprint and what we want to achieve by the end of the sprint, by the end of that time frame. Again, it's focused on what. Sprint goal will tell us what we want. And of course, we're going to work in how we intend. The how intend will be the sprint backlog. The user stories that we're going to bring to the backlog, to the sprint backlog, that will tell us how we intend to achieve that. But if mid-sprint we find a better way, or we find that it won't be possible to achieve that goal using that plan, why don't we adapt? Always focusing on what we want. We don't do this, and I don't understand why, sorry. And that's what I say here. We commit, every time that I say, are you committing to your backlog? Are you committed to the sprint backlog? Or are you committed to your release plan? Every time that I hear that, I feel chills, I freak out. Because commitment, it's like to stick with your plan. Why are we sticking with the plan? We should stick with what we want to achieve, the value that we want to deliver. That's what I use here. You should commit to the sprint goal and forecast how to achieve this. The forecast is how we intend to. We're going to commit to many things in Scrum. We're going to commit to quality, we should commit, definition of done, we should commit to collaborate, to self-organize, to many things. But be careful to commit to your plan. Gunther, the keynote today in the afternoon, I read his book, the Scrum Pocket Guide, and at that point, helped me a lot to understand this, because he used a lot of forecast. This is our forecast. So think about that. Talking a bit more about sprint goals, when I've applied and introduced sprint goals in the teams that I've worked with, you can see the difference, how the team interact. The collaboration and the cooperation among them increase a lot, because they know what, and they're going to be adapting the how they're going to achieve that. We've been achieving much more successful sprints when we start adopting goals rather than when we were sticking to the plan. Let's see a bit more about the sprint goals, maybe some good examples, maybe not, the other ones not so good. Sorry. So, some examples that can be good. We may need to address a technical risk. We need to know if our current infrastructure enable the performance that we need. It's a point. Probably the most common one is we want to release a feature, but we are telling what we want to achieve exactly the feature objective, the business value here. And finally, maybe some performance. You may need to process 1 million records in 1 hour, or you have an SLA where your request and response should be less than 100 milliseconds, something like that, something that we can measure by the end of the sprint. Maybe seeing the other two. I brought only two because I do believe that they are the common ones. The most common is let's stick with our plan. So complete all the X user stories that we have. This is our goal. In other words, it's like, okay, we at the beginning of our day, we decide that we're going to stick with this plan to go to the top of the mountain, and it doesn't matter what happens, I will follow that plan. So that's the goal that we commonly see. So we stick, there's no goal to this, the dev team will pretty much just do it. They don't have any room for good decisions, to bring improvements or to adapt to, if they face any problem mid-sprint, to adapt that to still achieve the goal. We don't have any room for decisions. And the other one is completely fuzzy. For example, improve something. Let's improve our performance. Okay, then at the end of the sprint, how you measure that? It's to improve in 1%, 10%, 1 hour, 2 hours, what? We need to have a metric to compare to. And for this case, what helped me a lot, a tool that helped me a lot was this template from Roman Pickler. I want to go too deep in details here. Roman has at least 2 articles on his blog detailing and giving a lot of information how you could come up with good goals. But summarizing is, you come up with your goal, you're going to also define the method that you're going to assess the goal at the end of the sprint. And additionally, what metrics you're going to use to compare to say, okay, we've achieved this successfully or not. By the way, this presentation is on my blog. At the end, you're going to see the link there. You guys have access to this if you don't take any of the sources. I will bring more sources for other meetings, and it will be available on my blog. I will also tweet at the end if you guys want to access this. Okay, in terms of goals, it's pretty much that, but it's really interesting how the teams start acting and behaving differently when they have a goal, a proper goal. I really got good outcomes working this template. This template stays by where we have the Daily Scrum or by the team, so we know what is our goal for the sprint. 2 things here that I use. How do you come up with a goal? There are 2 ways that I see. The first one, the PO can come up with an idea of the goal and then work out with the team how, or work out that goal. If the team basically a collaboration and decide the goal, it's one option, PO bring in the goal. The other one is we do the normal, what you normally do. We pull into the top priorities user stories into the sprint. And based on that, we come up with a goal. So I have those 10 user stories, and we assess those 10 user stories. What would be our goal? Not we stick with 10 user stories, but what's the meaning of those 10 user stories? Sometimes I've realized that it's not possible to come up with just one goal only. So I see that if there are a couple of user stories that are not related to the goal, I don't see any problem having that, as you have your main goal. But sometimes we realize that we have more than one goal, so we can see pretty much 2 goals. What I do, we try to define together what is our main goal, and then we have a secondary goal. I don't think it's ideal, but it's the way that we try to do, and it's not that bad. So for Daily Scrum, by the way, who should be in Daily Scrum? Who should attend Daily Scrum? Dev team. Dev team should. Yes or no? Yes. Scrum Master should be there. Should. What about PO? I got to, yes, no, maybe. If team allows. That's the point. The Daily Scrum is mainly and should be solely for the dev team. I don't see with bad eyes if, well, Scrum Master is there and PO is there sometimes. We have to be careful with that. How is the relation, how is the maturity of the team? But the Daily Scrum is the moment that we get together and we expect our initial plan after 1 kilometer walking up to the mountain. We just stop and assess what we've done and what we're going to do next. One thing that I see here, and it's extremely common, people answering 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What will I do today? And is there impediment? For me, answering those 3 questions, it's pretty much stats report. The questions by themselves are stats report. I'm reporting something. I truly believe that we are missing one important part of every single question here, which is what I did yesterday that helped us to achieve our goal here, or what we intend to achieve. What I intend to do now, the next day, that will help us to achieve what we want. And is there something preventing us to achieve what we want? It's like whenever we pass across those trees, when we were hiking up, we just realized there's now a lake. We are getting together and decide, okay, we've done this so far. Okay, we are moving towards our goal, but now we have a problem that we didn't know at the beginning. What will we do? There's an impediment, let's remove this. Let's hire a boat. Let's use that track that's steep but still can bring us to there. So let's adapt. And I don't see we doing this a lot. So goal is the main focus. The sprint goal is the main focus of every single meeting in Scrum. The other thing is, I don't know if you can see this image here. Can you realize this image here? Whereas I have a board, I have a team, and this guy here. Maybe a Scrum Master, maybe a member of the team. If we have this configuration during the Daily Scrum, if there's someone in between the board and the team, if you have physical board or any electronic board on the screen, people naturally will report to that people. We will answer, can be any of the questions, but we'll be pretty much focused on that person that's facing. You guys are facing me, so everyone is looking to me because I'm in between the board and you. Naturally, I'm going to be the point of attention, and if we're going to be talking, you're going to be referring to me. Do an experiment for the Scrum Masters, if usually Scrum Master here. Do an experiment. Try to step back tomorrow on your daily sprint. Step back and stay behind the team and see what happens. If the team start looking at you, even if you are behind them, this is a good hint that that meeting is much more for you for a stats report than anything else. And I've been doing this so many times, mainly for new teams. It's so funny because they start looking at you, and if you step even back and behind someone, they're gonna look at you. No, that's the moment the Scrum Master should act and mentor them the purpose of that meeting. Why we are having that meeting? It's not for me. It's for you. We as a team have a goal, but you guys are now inspecting our plan to achieve the goal. You own this. Just go and do it. That's the important part of Scrum Master mentoring the team. But do it. You're gonna see that it's really cool. And so far, 100% of the times they start looking at you. At least some members, most of them. Okay. So let's talk about sprint review. And I repeat my question, who should be in the sprint review? The dev team should be in the sprint review. Of course. Scrum Master. Okay. NPO. Should I have more people? Who? Very good. This is important part where we're going to inspect and adapt our product, what we have and what we've done so far. We're going to raise transparency even more, and mainly with the stakeholders, because I do believe that PO should be engaged throughout the sprint, and it's very important. We're going to cover that. And to give and receive feedback. Here I have a couple of things. First is, we have to have a good environment here, environment where people will be comfortable and safe to give and receive feedback. So I see sometimes we having problems when the feedback is not focusing on what and focusing on who, and this causes a real problem. So we should be always focusing on what. And what I've seen a lot is the team, or we don't like to be criticized on what we've produced, even though it's focused on what we produced. And I think that here, Scrum Master have to work with the team to improve that, to understand that it's part of the process to get feedback. PO and stakeholders, they have a better clarity of what's going on in the market, getting feedback from the market. So it's important to receive that. If we've done something now, we are working with software, it's intangible, we can touch it. So they're gonna see it there, and it may not what they thought, it happens. And they will give feedback on that. I don't see a problem with that. We have to learn to cooperate and collaborate based, focus on what we want to deliver, the value that we want to deliver to our clients or to our customers. So create an environment or set a stage, Scrum Master set stage at the beginning, informing or letting everyone know what is expected and how should work that meeting. Give a good introduction, setting the stage. That's the word. And I've been working with distributed teams for some years now, and if we have challenging working with people, when they are distributed, we have even a bigger challenge. It's even harder. I've seen a lot. I've seen having sprint reviews in using audio, just audio conference, and how terrible that is. Is there anyone using audio conference for sprint reviews here? Oh, here is an example. I still have one team using audio conference. I couldn't move to video conference yet, but I had this team here at the beginning with audio conference. The sprint reviews seemed like a funeral. No interaction, no collaboration, just like a bureaucracy. Let's just show what we have here, and that's it. So I believe that the team should be proud of what they are doing. And it's so easy to ignore just a voice. But when you see a face, you start creating empathy. And that's what I brought this graph here. It's the implication of modes of communication. If we are co-located, we should be on the same room. And I've seen people in the same building having meetings, Scrum meetings, from their desks in different rooms, sometimes close, like right there and here, and we are just having like a Skype call. And the whole team is there. Why don't we get together? So the effectiveness for co-located, it's face-to-face with a board. That's why we have the information radiator, Scrum board, the Kanban board, something like that. But if we have this challenge of geographical distance, and we don't need documentation, which is our case, let's go for a video conference. You can see even the face here. People smiling, talk to each other. Not only the meeting, they start like collaborating throughout the sprint because we work out from the same backlog. So it was really, really cool, the outcomes that we had using video conference. By the way, I'm not sponsored by this tool, Zoom. Even though if they are watching this video and if they want to sponsor me, I would be very happy with that because I use a lot this tool and it's very, very good. Quality of sound, to share your screen, you can see everyone, you can have, I don't know, here we have 10 more, 15 people. I've been in meetings with 20, 25. Sound, image works very well. So I do like it. The free version, you can have meetings with 40 minutes for more than 3 people in the call, but up to 3 people, it's unlimited. So we use a lot of this during the sprint, and it's really good. And finally, the last one, retrospective, and who should be there? Dev team, Scrum Master, and what about PO? If needed, not, yes, if needed. So I believe that the retrospective is a moment where the Scrum team will get together and will reflect upon people, process, tool, quality, anything. And I'm talking about the Scrum team. So who's the Scrum team? Dev team, Scrum Master, and PO. I do believe that tenets of PO in retrospectives are very important. Let's suppose we're going to discuss about requirements, quality, and the requirements use stories. What is the outcome we're going to have if there's just the dev team discussing with Scrum Master facilitating that? We don't have a real outcome. PO is a very important cog in this whole process. We should be working together. Even though sometimes we have this image that PO is the enemy, he's not, and he shouldn't be. If he's been, something is not working well. Additionally, I see here a very important role for the Scrum Master to facilitate this meeting, even more than the others. And I say, prepare up front. Why? It's also a moment that we're going to get together, right? And we will be talking about problems, issues, observations, and improvements. If we are in a relaxed environment or something that is we are comfortable, we are going to be much more creative, much more innovative, right? So what I see here, have an agenda, because people tend to be more focused when they know what's going to happen, and bring elements to make this enjoyable, to make this fun. For example, for new teams, I used last week, or the week before, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, the personal map I just stole from Johan, from his book. He has the personal map, it's an example, where it was a new team, and they didn't know about each other. So as a warm-up, we just picked randomly pairs, and then I had to create the personal map of that other guy. And for new teams, they don't know much about each other. And so they had some time to talk and ask about each other, to know about each other. And whenever we know more about our colleagues, we're going to find affinity. And this means that we're going to be creating more empathy. The more is the empathy, the more we're going to cooperate, not just collaborate. Collaborate, each one works in his own task. Cooperate, we're going to work together. Someone will help out the other. So it's very important to have empathy. I've done other games like the collaborative facing draw. I'll bring more sources for you, which is really cool. And for more mature teams, we can focus on issues that you may have found during the sprint. Communication, something that you want to improve. You can bring some elements that can help you out during our sprint retrospective. But the main word for me in the outcome of this meeting is experiment or experimentation for two main reasons. First, it's the best way to validate our assumptions. And secondly, people tend to not like changes. We don't like. Usually we are in our comfort zone, and to step out, it's a bit hard. However, when we propose an experiment, and I've seen this very powerful, guys, let's just try it out. Let's try it for a sprint, for 2 sprints. If this doesn't work, we just either get rid of that, or we reassess and do something different. I'm pretty sure that if they try and see if that what you're trying works, your team will keep doing this. You brought a change to the team, and they're going to keep doing it, even though you don't need to force that. If they don't see value, at least they will try, because they know that it's just temporary. They know that it's going to end at the end. At the end, it's going to end at some point. It's just experimentation is a very powerful word for retrospectives. I usually do this when we start discussing too much. Guys, what if we just come up with a small experiment? It's a low risk. Let's put this in place and assess that. For that, I have some tools here that can help you guys out with your retrospectives. First and second, funretrospectives.com and this book, Agile Retrospectives, they bring format for your agenda, for your format structure for your retrospective. They are slightly different, and they bring also elements that you can put on your retrospective, examples, games, and so on. It's really a good source. If you want to look for more games, tastecupcake.org and improvencyclopedia.org, you're going to have thousands and thousands of games. So you just dig there based on what you need and use it. It's really powerful. And the last one, it's more for experimentation. This is a tool based on Toyota Kata from Claudio Perroni and the continuous improvement. I use this. I won't go too deep in this, but search for popcorn flow. We're gonna see many videos in YouTube from Claudio. He also has his website with a lot of information, and this could be a full session easily. But the whole point is popcorn flows stands for problems, observations, options, possible experiments, committed, ongoing, review, and next. So pretty much those are examples of boards. They are by our Scrum pod. Every time that anyone in the team see a problem or observation, something that we could improve, it's not really a problem, but something that we could try, they're going to stick a Post-it. Let me use that one probably. If it's something urgent or that we have to take an action straight, we can even talk after the Daily Scrum. We're going to discuss about options. We're going to come up with options. We're going to come up with some experiments. We don't need to put all of them in place, maybe one or two. Then we're going to commit to those ones. We're going to, at some point, we're going to put a deadline because we're going to review it to not lose track. We have to follow up. Whenever we review it, we decide, are we going to do next step or it's done? It's a really cool tool to have continuous improvement. I do like that, and I use in some of the teams. Right? I still have some time. Now, I would like to invite you to play a game. And you guys have a piece of paper there. You should have one. Does everyone have a piece of paper? Yes? No? So I will start the timer in 3 minutes, and you're going to have 3 minutes to do whatever in this paper. But by the end of the 3 minutes, I will get those pieces of paper back. Just let's wait everyone to finish the 3 minutes, and then we discuss how we're going to get this back. But starting now, you guys can stand up and have 3 minutes to execute what we have in this paper. Can we have here paper? Starting right now, 3 minutes, go, do it. Sorry? You have your own paper. You just do whatever you have on your paper. There's no problem. The group is just for me. 2 minutes left. One minute left. Ten seconds left. Time's up. You can stop. Just wait. Just stop. Okay, so we had 4 groups. Basically, we had a group 1 where whenever the time started, they had to find someone with a blank paper and tell them how to build a paper airplane. But they had like instructions step by step. Did you do that? Group 1, share. Did you have time? Enough time? Maybe some not incomplete ones. No have time. How did you feel about that? That someone telling you what to do and okay, I told you to do that. What about the group 2, which was no group 2? It's blank piece of paper. How did you feel? What did you do? Someone just approach you and start telling you what to do? Instructions? What about the group 3? Build a paper airplane. You've completed. You can see all of them with paper airplane. Was it hard to do? Did you use the 3 minutes? No? And what about the group 4? Keep this paper until the end of 3 minutes, the end of the time box. So you just did nothing, you just waited. Did anyone do something different than what I have in the paper? Did you know why we were doing that? No? Did I give you context? Just wait yet. Did I give you any context? I wasn't asked why we are doing that. What is the correlation with what I'm speaking here? No? Okay, I'm gonna cover that. The whole point is, whoever doesn't have a paper airplane, you can make it. I will just have finished the last slide, and then you're gonna give it back to me. So just hold, finish your paper airplane, and let's discuss the last slide, and you're gonna give it back to me. So basically, this is what happens with us when adopting a framework. We have Scrum Guide, we have Safe there, and we get what is there and start doing what it's saying, but do we really understand why we are doing stuff? Why we are doing those things? That's what happened today. I just gave you some instructions. Maybe for some, they didn't have any, actually. For some, they had it detailed. And just said, go off and do it. And then we start doing this. And I see that correlation with what we do when adopt a framework. It's important. At the beginning, we're going to focus a lot on practice, what the framework is bringing to us, the method. But here I'm going to use the Shuhari. Do you know the 3 stages of learning to mastery? So the whole point, do you remember Karate Kid 3? Oh, Karate Kid, sorry. Did you watch this movie? So what happened at the beginning with Daniel-san? He had to walk the Master Miyagi's car, and he had to paint the fence. And he practiced this so much, and every time he was asking, why I'm doing this, Master Miyagi? Up to the point that he understood the principles behind the practice. Whenever he understood the principles, he practiced those principles, he executed those principles, and then he started bringing his own blend. It's what Jürgen was talking during the keynote. We can use frameworks as start points, but we need to focus on principles. Whenever he understood and practiced a lot of the principles, he was developed. He didn't need any framework. That's what Jürgen was saying, bring elements of each framework that you believe that it what's going to work for your context. That's really important. I'm very glad that I saw that there's a session after lunch focused on Scrum principles, which I believe that's what we should be focusing on. Why, in my opinion, the Spotify model doesn't work for many organizations that try to use out of Spotify? Because we focus on practice. We are copying what they do. But same for Toyota, the continuous improvement. We focus on practice whenever we should be focused on principles. What is the principle behind each element in any framework? And for that, my final message is, ask why. Why we are having sprint planning, why we're going to have those meetings, why we have definition of done, why? If we understand the more we ask whys, the faster or the quicker we're going to understand why we are applying that. Understanding that, we can start bringing our own flavor. And at some point, we don't need more frameworks because we're going to be the rule. That's my final message, where just following any Scrum ceremony or any framework doesn't make a team an Agile team. Just think about that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Leonardo. Maybe you have questions?
Just before I start the first question, I will ask you guys to give me back, then we can still start the questions. I need the paper back. So you guys, at 3, you give me the paper back. At 3. Okay, protecting. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. So I can start out with questions.
So, any questions? Just raise a hand.
I don't know who, but it was very good pointed on target.
We have
Any
several
questions?
minutes for the questions. Anything?
I can ask you questions if they don't. Do you guys use sprint goals like those I mentioned here, or is there something different?
Okay, we have one.
Regarding the sprint reviews and retrospectives, what happens if you blend those two together into one meeting?
I like to have boundaries. At least my audience is different. I have probably everyone from the audience from sprint retrospective in the sprint review, but the other way around is not true. So I work with projects that I've worked is usually more than one team. If it's one team only, maybe it could work if you have only PO as your stakeholder. We don't have any other. But I would literally have a boundary. I would leave a break. I would have a break in between to know that we are leaving this meeting for this purpose, and now we are starting another one. Have a coffee in between 5-10 minutes. I would do that. I would literally have a gate in between both. Maybe 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes, or something like that. I have this case. But you can see what works better on your context. Experiment.
Okay, more questions? I have one question about retrospectives. how do you suggest how often to change environment, retrospective, make games in the retrospective? So how often do you suggest to change it?
If possible, at every. But I'm going to be honest that I don't do this, even though I should. I see when it's in terms of time. When I have more spare time to focus and create this, prepare the better agenda, I will come up with something better structured. But if it's possible, I would change after every retrospective based on what I realized during the sprint. So usually I see some things that happen during the sprint, and then I try to bring an element that will help us to gather the data for the Scrum, the retrospective. Because I see you guys, I know that the default, the standard for a retrospective is what went well, what didn't went well, and what we could do better. For me, if we run a retrospective like that for 3 times in a row, we have just a bureaucracy where people will just sit there, write papers, post-its, and that's it, and oh, that meeting again. So why we waste time during our retros? Whereas I got good feedback from mainly one team that I play more with them because it also relates to the maturity and how the team is accepted with games. Some of them are easier than the others to adopt this. And I got feedback that it was much more enjoyable, the retrospective, and we were getting better outcomes. So I wouldn't run more than twice in the same format.
Okay, great. I see the time is up. We need a little bit some coffee, yeah. So thank you, everyone.
So you can access my blog if you want to. This presentation is available there. If you are a Scrum Master, look at this book. Please read this book. Coaching Agile Teams. It's amazing. It's
okay,
a very good
thank you, Leonardo. A little bit present from organizers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And everyone, yeah, just you can subscribe to Facebook event, and we are posting there some great news about Revolut. We are going to provide you for free if you know what is it, the card. Also, go to the coffee. We have free great coffee in the corner, so try it. Stay in the event on the Facebook and just follow us. Thank you.